What's up guys? In this video we're going to use Reaper's parameter modulation feature to duck the bass frequencies from a synth sound underneath a kick drum. What I've got set up here already is a beat folder, which is a template that has Short Circuit, the sample player, in it. Using MIDI we can play samples, which I just use for percussion here. The different samples are already routed to different channels in this folder. There's one for kick, snare, and hat so that I can use different effects, different send levels for the reverb. I can EQ them differently. The whole thing can then be compressed in the beat folder if I need to. We've got snare and hat here, which I'm going to remove because we're not using them in this video. Then there's also a channel to augment the kick sound with extra bass if I would like to. The way we do that, you've probably seen this before, we're using regate. Anytime the gate opens, we have it set to send a MIDI note, which is 33, I believe that's a G. We have the wet and dry turned all the way down so that none of the original sound routed through this actually ever plays. And then we're using resynth to play that bass note, which on its own sounds like garbage, but mixed with the kick makes it sound a little heavier. And then re-EQ, which is just on every new track I have by default. That way I can high pass, low pass things. There's a little bit in the middle if I need to lower or raise a frequency. We have a patch set up here just to play the kick. That's how that sounds. I have my Roland HS60 in input 1. We're monitoring that. And then the Roland HS60 is hooked up to MIDI channel 1. I have a template for that because that's how it's always routed. That's how it's always hooked up. So any MIDI items I have here will play through it. When I'm done with one of those MIDI items, this template also has a muted track under this as a folder. So if I've recorded it and I don't want it to play anymore, I can just drag it down here rather than delete it. This way later on, if I'd like to, I can re-record it using a different synth sound. I can edit it to play it if I need another synthesizer playing a similar patch, or if I've forgotten how to play it, or I just don't like what I've played. Either way, I can keep everything, but also keep it out of the way. So this is what it sounds like. That synth has a bit of a high-end growl, which we want to keep, but then under the kick drum, we want to duck some of those bass frequencies. So what we're going to do is route the kick to the track the HS60 is playing through. We're going to send it to channels 3 and 4. 1 and 2 is where all the audio is processed and played out, and we don't want the kick playing in both channels. So then on re-EQ, we're going to go into parameter modulation. We're going to be listening to the audio control signal. And channel 3, which is where the kick drum is coming in, is what we're looking at. We're going to set the baseline and keep that around 50, which is what I would have it at ordinarily. And then when we play it, see it's already moving a little. When we go down into the settings, we can look at the minimum volume it wants to look at. This is to keep things from noise and whatever from affecting it down at the bottom, or perhaps the signal you have only alters in volume slightly. See, the lower the range, the more it's affected. That's a bit extreme, but it is a little musical. We can adjust the release. And then if we want to fine tune it, we can look at strength. But if you listen to how extreme we get, the high end is basically unaffected, and it's just the bass. So we have a pumping, dancey bass, which makes it sound like there are two separate synth sounds, but we're just using one. So doing this, we can create a deeper groove, or we can let the bass punch through a little more, even when there are other synth sounds which have a fat bass. It's really easy to get carried away in electronic music using a full spectrum synth sound that doesn't really leave room for anything else. But nobody wants to listen to electronic music where the kick drum doesn't punch you and make you want to move. So thank you for watching.